Dear class 10, we are in chapter number 12 now. That is the endocrine system, and this is the last chapter of our syllabus for the year 2020 according to the revised syllabus. Okay, the endocrine system, what it is. Okay, it is a system which consists of the several glands or glandular cells which produce chemical substances. Okay, chemical substances in this context are hormones to bring about chemical coordination in the body. Okay, that is your endocrine system. Okay, so here your chemical substances in this context are hormones. So what are hormones then? So hormones are the chemical substances produced by the glands or glandular cells, are mostly or especially the endocrine glands. Okay, endocrine glands produced directly into or poured directly into the blood. So the blood will carry them to the target places. Okay, to the one or two target places where they perform their functions. Okay, that is your hormone. Okay, so here we come across a word called endocrine gland. So what is endocrine gland then? So endocrine gland is a ductless glands. Okay, endocrine gland is a ductless gland, which means it does not have a duct, D-U-C-T, duct, so that it secretes its secretion. Secretion means its hormones directly into the blood. So the blood will carry them to the target places where these chemicals perform their function. So that is ductless gland. So it is endocrine gland. So on the other side, there is another gland called exocrine gland. Okay, in your syllabus, you got to, according to your syllabus, you got to know the difference between the endocrine gland and exocrine gland also. So endocrine you just came to know just now, but there is exocrine gland also. What is exocrine gland? So exocrine gland is a duct gland. That means the gland which has a duct. Okay, which has a duct, D-U-C-T, duct, so that they pour and this gland, this exocrine gland, pours its secretions into the duct. So through the duct it reaches the target places. Okay, that is there. One is having duct, the other one is not having a duct. That means endocrine gland is a ductless gland, whereas exocrine gland is a duct having gland. Okay, so now here we'll be talking about those glands responsible for producing different kinds of hormones and the functions of those hormones in this particular chapter. Okay, so there are several glands responsible for secreting the hormones, but here in our syllabus we have got 4 different kinds of endocrine glands, or 4 different kinds of glands producing the different kinds of hormones. Okay, so they are adrenal gland down there, adrenal gland here, adrenal glands, a pair of adrenal glands are there right on the top of each kidney. Then pancreas is there. Okay, pancreas is also called a dual gland, D-U-A-L, dual gland, because so pancreas contains a cluster of cells responsible for producing some hormones, and on the other side pancreas also produces a pancreatic juice for the digestion of food. Okay, then so that this pancreas is called the dual gland also. Then number 3 we have got thyroid gland. So in the thyroid region here, okay, here in the throat region there is a gland right on the thyroid, which is called thyroid gland. Then in the brain we have got pituitary gland. So these 4 glands here we have got in our syllabus, though there are some other glands responsible for producing the different kinds of hormones. Okay, as I've told you, the hormones are especially there are many glands which also produce, actually there are the glands which produce the hormones. So mostly the hormones are produced from the from the endocrine glands, from the dog clase glands. Though there are some parts there in the body which are actually not the endocrine glands, not they have got some other main functions, okay, to perform, but additionally they also produce some hormones, but mostly the hormones are produced from the endocrine glands. So there are many, but according to the syllabus we have got 4 different kinds of glands, as I've told you just now. So here we'll have a quick look at the the hormones produced from these different kinds of glands. Number 1, adrenal gland. From adrenal gland we have got 2 different hormones in our syllabus, that is adrenaline and cortical hormone. Pancreas, from pancreas we have got insulin and glucagon. From thyroid, okay, we have got thyroxine hormone only. Then pituitary gland. So this pituitary gland, which is here in the brain, pea-sized gland, has got 2 different parts, that's anterior part and the posterior part. That means anterior region and posterior region, responsible for producing different kinds of hormones. See here, from anterior region there are 4 hormones produced. Number 1, GH. GH means your growth hormone, okay, growth hormone responsible for the growth. Then number B, TSS, thyroid stimulating hormone, okay, thyroid stimulating hormone, which means this hormone secreted from your stimulates the thyroid gland to produce thyroxine, okay. Then GSS, your gonads stimulating hormone or gonadotropic hormone also can be called, that is GSS, gonad stimulating hormone. The hormone coming from here, this GSS actually is produced here, and this hormone going down to the gonads stimulate the gonads, and under the influence of this GSS only the gonads produce their respective hormones. So gonads means what out here? So in case of male it is testis, and in case of female it is ovary. Okay, so they are the gonads, so they also produce the different kinds of hormones, sex hormones, under the influence of this GSH. Then ACTH, the adrenocorticotropic hormone. So these are the 4 hormones secreted from the pituitary, anterior pituitary gland. Then from the posterior region of this pituitary gland, we have got 2 different kinds of hormones. They are antidiuretic hormone and other one is the oxytocin. Okay, so in total we have got 4 different hormones from the pituitary gland alone. Okay, so that way, so here you see the number of hormones being produced from pituitary gland stimulating the other hormone secreting glands. So keeping these things in view, this pituitary gland is also called the master gland. So we'll be talking all about it in detail afterwards. So now we'll go one by one. Okay, let's begin with the hormone produced by adrenal gland. I've told you adrenal gland is situated right on the top of each kidney. Okay, there is a cap-like structure on each kidney called adrenal gland. Okay, so the hormone produced from there is your adrenaline first, that we'll talk about. This adrenaline is also named as epinephrine, also noradrenaline. So that means the same hormone you see being being known by 3 different names: adrenaline, epinephrine, noradrenaline. Okay, please try to know this hormone by all these 3 names. Okay, so this hormone or this adrenaline prepares our body to meet any emergency situations. Okay, either by running away from the situation or by facing the situation. That means it will prepare the body for fight or flight. Okay, either for fight or for flight. That means it will prepare your body either by fighting the situation, facing the situation with lot of energy pumped there in the body, with lot of energy developed there in the body, or by running away from the situation, okay, or by running away from the situation called, for flight. So that means it will prepare your body for fight or for flight. It is somehow to save your life. It is somehow to save your life. Okay, that means to meet up such emergency situations, this hormone called adrenaline hormone prepares our body. So that this hormone is also called the emergency hormone. Emergency hormone. Okay, the emergency hormone. Okay, so during such emergencies, what happens is that the extra energy is produced there in the body. The extra strength is formed there in the body under the influence of this hormone. Because you are in danger, so that you have to save your life. Somehow you need to save your life. So that time, this hormone, a huge amount of this hormone is produced there in the body, or is poured there into the blood from this gland called adrenal gland. Okay, then during stress, when you are stressed, okay, when you are angry, when you are excited, so that time more adrenaline hormone is produced. Okay, more adrenaline hormone is poured into the body. All right, then and under such situation, what also happen is that the nerve endings of the autonomic nervous system stimulate this gland to produce more adrenaline, so that lot of hormone is there in the blood, so that lot of energy is formed there in the body, so that you can prepare your body, or the body is in such situation that it is prepared to face that situation, either by fighting it or by running away from it. Okay, so this is how it prepares the body. So it is also called the emergency hormone. So let us talk about the functions of this hormone. There are 3 functions given in your book. Okay, they are: number 1, you see, so it increases the heartbeat. Okay, it increases the heartbeat accompanied by the increased blood pressure also. That means what happens under the stimulation of this hormone is that, number 1, it increases your heartbeat. All right, and also it increases blood pressure. Just imagine when you are in such emergency, so that time your heartbeat goes faster. Okay, your heartbeat becomes very fast. All right, and also your blood pressure increases because you are in such situation. So you have to save your life. So automatically this situation takes place. That means this particular change takes place there in the body. That means your heartbeat increases, your blood pressure also increases. All right, so this is how it prepares the body. Another function that it increases your blood supply into the muscles also. Okay, blood supply to the muscles also, because most of the blood there in the body flows towards the muscles, because muscles have to be strong that time, either for fighting or for running away. Okay, so that this hormone makes the system there in the body that the blood now is flowing towards the muscles. Okay, and also what you see there is that under the influence of this hormone, that more glucose is released into the blood. More glucose is usually from the liver. The more glucose you see being released into the blood, so that more energy is produced there in the blood, which is very much useful for facing that situation. So this this type of preparation will be there in the body in such emergencies under the influence of this hormone called adrenaline. So that's the reason why this hormone is called emergency hormone also. Now we'll talk about another hormone secreted by the adrenal gland. Okay, so adrenal gland actually has two parts or has two regions. Okay, that is adrenal medulla and adrenal cortex. Okay, like this. Adrenal gland, okay, has two regions, that is medulla and cortex. Medulla and cortex, that means adrenal medulla and adrenal cortex. Okay, so this medulla, from medulla, this emergency hormone is produced. Just now we talked about it, that is adrenaline. That's what? Adrenaline. Okay, so this adrenaline is secreted from the medulla region of this adrenal gland. Okay, whereas the other one, which I've already written out here, called cortisol or cortical hormone, is secreted from the cortex region of this adrenal. Okay, so this cortex, from cortex region of this adrenal gland, secretes a number of hormones, but the best known hormone is this cortisol, C-O-R-T-I-S-O-N-E, cortisol. And this cortisol is further categorized into two groups. Okay, they are mineralocorticoids. Okay, mineralocorticoids, please see the book. Okay, its pronunciation is a little bit difficult. See, and spelling mineralocorticoids, mineralocorticoids, and the other one is your glucocorticoids. Okay, so this mineralocorticoids especially regulates the mineral metabolism. Okay, minerals metabolism, especially sodium and potassium metabolism is mainly regulated by this mineralocorticoids. Whereas on the other side you see glucocorticoids mainly regulate carbohydrate, protein and fat metabolisms. Okay, so in general, these cortical hormones, okay, in general, these cortical hormones, increase blood glucose concentration. Okay, blood glucose concentration. That means that in the blood, the concentration of glucose is, increased under the influence of these cortical hormones in general. Okay, similarly, in general, these cortical hormones, influence fat and protein metabolism. Okay, fat and protein metabolism. Metabolism means, I've told you that this is sum total of all the chemical reactions taking place in the body. It is called metabolism. So metabolism on fats and proteins is influenced by these cortical hormones. Okay, because these fats and proteins, when are eaten, need to be digested. So after the digestion, they need to be undergoing number of chemical reactions in order to convert themselves into some usable forms. Okay, for which they need to undergo chemical reactions, so that chemical reactions on these fat and proteins are highly influenced by these cortical hormones. Similarly, these cortical hormones regulate salt and water balance in the body. Salt and water balance. So salt is needed there in the body. Okay, and how much it is to be there in the body. Okay, so that is also balanced by this hormone. Okay, and also these cortical hormones in general adapt the body to number of stresses such as extreme cold, okay, extreme heat, burns, and number of infections. Okay, so that way they support our body. So in the same way, these cortical hormones in general, support in many ways, as I've told you. Okay, beside this cortical hormones sometimes behave like the sex hormones. Okay, sex hormones. That's why there are some cortical hormones found only in the male, some found only in the female. So that way, this cortical hormones sometimes, or some of the cortical hormones behave something like the sex hormones. Okay, sometimes what happens is that this cortical region, okay, or this your adrenal cortex, okay, this part of the adrenal gland, as I told you, this gland is there on the kidney, right on the top of kidney. There is a cap-like structure called adrenal gland. So sometimes the cortex region of this adrenal gland sometimes grows more than its normal size. That means sometimes what happens, this cortex region of this adrenal gland sometimes grows more than the normal size. That time, if happens so, that means if this is growing abnormally, in case of young children, it leads to premature sexual maturity. That means before the time comes, okay, in young age itself, okay, the problem will happen. That means this kind of problem is this your premature sexual characteristics will be developed. Okay, if there is an overgrowth of adrenal cortex, okay, in case of mature female, then she will develop some kind of secondary sexual characteristics of male. Okay, that is having beard, mustache, okay, deep voice like of males, like that. Okay, so that problem which you see in case of mature females because of the overgrowth of adrenal cortex is called virilism. It's called what? Virilism. Okay, virilism, virilism. Okay, similarly, if there is an overgrowth of adrenal cortex, okay, in case of male, then he will also develop the enlarged breast. Okay, so these are all because of the overgrowth of adrenal cortex. All right, now here we'll see the hypo secretion and hyper secretion of the hormones. Means every hormone there in the body needs to be in the correct amount, correct quantity, okay, or in the correct concentration. Okay, so if the concentration of the hormones suppose goes down, so it will also cause lot of problems. That means if the concentration of the hormone there in the blood is less, so that particular condition is called hypo secretion. It's called what? Hypo secretion. Okay, hypo secretion. It's called hypo secretion. That means the concentration of hormone there in the blood is less than required. Okay, then if the concentration of the hormone is more than the body requires, then it is called hyper secretion. Hyper secretion. Okay, so hypo and hyper secretion, so both are not good out here, both cause some problems there in the body. So that the concentration of the hormones should be in the correct level, so that there is no any problem. So if the cortical hormones, okay, if the cortical hormones are secreted more than the body require, that means if the hyposecretion of cortical hormone is there, okay, in the body, if that condition is there in the body, then it leads to the problem called Addison's disease. Okay, problem called what? Addison's disease. Addison's disease. Okay, Addison's disease. That means hyposecretion of cortical hormones lead to Addison's disease. Addison apostrophe S. Addison's disease. Okay, it's a kind of disease in which the symptoms will be like this: loss of energy. Okay, the body will be very weak, loss of energy. Okay, skin pigmentation means there on the skin, lot of pigments, lot of patches, lot of marks are seen. All right, loss of weight will be lost, nausea, Okay, you feel, and then you have the tendency of vomiting. Okay, so then your hypoglycemia. Hypoglycemia means, sugar level will be less there in the blood. Okay, so sugar level will be low there in the blood, which is called hypoglycemia. Hypoglycemia, remember. And sensitivity to cold and pain. That means, if there is a low temperature, it's not that low, but if there is if the weather is not that good, if the day is not sunny, so that will also affect your body. That means your body will be sensitive to cold. Okay, so you will be feeling very cold if you are having that problem. Okay, if you are having this Addison's disease. All right, in the same way, it will be, the body will be sensitive to pain also. All right, and also other symptoms include, increased susceptibility to, infections. So different kinds of, infections will take place there in the body. Your body will be so, susceptible to the different kinds of infections there in the body. So this particular disease is caused due to the hypo secretion of this cortical hormone. Okay, and similarly, if this hormone is secreted more than the body requires, the body, as I told you, the condition is called hyper secretion. So hyper secretion of this hormone leads to another disease or another problem called Cushing's syndrome. Called what? Cushing's syndrome. Cushing syndrome. It's called what? Cushing syndrome. So another problem called Cushing's syndrome. Okay, Cushing's syndrome. Cushing's syndrome. So this Cushing's syndrome includes the symptoms like this. Okay, obesity. So all of a sudden, the body will be abnormally, the body weight will be abnormally growing. Okay, that will be increased, body weight will be increased, so that it leads to obesity. Okay, similarly, hyperglycemia, that means your sugar level will be increased there in the blood. All right, sugar level will be high. Similarly, it leads to osteoporosis. Osteoporosis means, your bones will be very weak. It will be brittle. Brittle means it will be breakable. All right, so osteoporosis and also the weakness. Okay, in general, the body weakness also is experienced in this particular disease called Cushing's syndrome, which is because of the hyper secretion of this cortical hormone. Okay, now next gland that we are going to talk about is pancreas. Okay, so pancreas is called a dual gland. Okay, it is a dual gland. Pancreas is called a dual gland. Why? Because this pancreas contains a cluster of cells which is considered to be a ductless gland. That means there is a cluster of cell in the pancreas itself which is responsible for secreting the 3 different kinds of hormones. So that is an endocrine gland. Okay, that particular region, that particular portion of pancreas is regarded to be the endocrine gland or a ductless gland. But other portion of the pancreas is there which is a duct gland, which is regarded to be a duct gland because it secretes a pancreatic juice. Okay, pancreatic juice which is poured therein to duodenum, and there in the duodenum it executes a lot of functions for the digestion of food. Okay, so that part is a duct gland, whereas the other part of pancreas you see containing a cluster of cells. Okay, cluster of cells responsible for producing or secreting 3 different kinds of hormones. Okay, so that is regarded to be the endocrine gland. Okay, that means that is a ductal gland. So that this pancreas is regarded to be the dual gland containing both duct and ductless gland. All right, so that ductless gland, a cluster of cells, a cluster of cells you see out here is called islets of Langerhans. Okay, islets of Langerhans. ISLETS, islets of Langerhans. So that is a cluster of cell which contains three different kinds of cells in it, called alpha cells, beta cells and delta cells. So these alpha cells produce insulin, okay, a kind of hormone. Beta cells secretes the other hormone, other kind of hormone called glucagon, and delta cells produces, somatostatin. So in our syllabus, this is not there. This somatostatin produced from delta cells of islets of Langerhans is not there. So in our syllabus, we have got these two different kinds of hormones produced from alpha cells and beta cells respectively. Okay, that means insulin from alpha and glucagon from beta cells of islets of Langerhans. Okay, so now we'll talk about this insulin. Okay, insulin, as I've told you, is produced from the alpha cells of islets of Langerhans. Okay, so as you all know that this is the hormone which takes down the sugar level there in the blood. Okay, which means it checks the condition called hyperglycemia. As I told you, hyperglycemia means increased sugar level there in the blood. That is hyperglycemia. So this hyperglycemia is checked down by the hormone called insulin. So how does it check the sugar level in the blood? So it does so in two ways. Number one, it influences the cells of the body to make use of the sugar. Okay, it promotes the cells to utilize the sugar or glucose. Okay, number one. Number two, this hormone, this insulin, influences the or promotes the deposition of glucose. Okay, especially deposition of extra glucose. Okay, deposition of extra glucose in the form of glycogen. In the form of what? Glycogen. That means glucose in the form of glycogen. Okay, in the form of glycogen. Okay, this insulin promotes the deposition of extra glucose which is there in the blood in the form of glycogen in the liver or in the muscle cells. Okay, so that it is not excess there in the blood. So that way it checks down the sugar level there in the blood. Okay, now sometimes the condition will be like this. When the sugar, your insulin is not there in the blood, that means your insulin is secreted less there in the body, which means hypo secretion. Hypo secretion of insulin. What happens if there is less insulin there in the blood? Okay, so that time the problem caused is your diabetes mellitus. Okay, diabetes mellitus. Okay, so in this condition, what happens is that the sugar level will be increased there in the blood. That means your hyperglycemia condition will be called hyperglycemia, which means your sugar level will be increased there in the blood. Then person, whoever is having this problem called diabetes mellitus, will be losing the body weight. All right, then he or she feels so thirsty, okay, because of the excessive loss of your water from the body in the form of urine. Okay, so and the urine is loaded with the sugar. All right, so this kind of problems will be there. And if it is chronic, if the condition becomes severe, then the person will lose the vision, okay, or the sight also. So this is called these are the symptoms of this disease called diabetes mellitus, caused due to the hypo secretion of this hormone. That means when insulin is less, so that time this problem is caused. Okay, and hyperglycemia, hyper secretion of insulin. If the insulin is secreted more than the body requires, called hyper secretion. So hyper secretion. If it is secreted more than the body requires, then the condition will be just reverse. Okay, so it will be hypoglycemia. Hypoglycemia. It is here, it leads to hyperglycemia. It is hypoglycemia, where the blood sugar level will be very less there in the blood. Okay, and it may even lead to the state of coma. That means your brain will reach the state of coma if this hyper secretion of insulin takes place there in the body. If it is secreted more than the body requires, then obviously your hypoglycemia will be there, no sugar level will be less, consequently the brain will reach the state of coma also. Okay, and that particular condition is sometimes seen when overdose of insulin is given to the patient of diabetes mellitus. Same problem will be there, and that particular problem is called insulin shock. Then the other hormone, as I've told you, called glucagon. What is that? Glucagon, secreted by the beta cells of these islets of Langerhans. So its function is just opposite to the function of insulin. So insulin here, as I've told you, promotes the utilization of glucose there in the blood, and also it stimulates the cells to convert the glucose into glycogen. Okay, not don't be confused out here, glucagon and glycogen. Glycogen is the stable form of glucose, so that it can be stored there in liver cells and in the muscles. But here is glucagon, which is a hormone. All right, so that way insulin promotes the conversion of glucose into glycogen, and and it promotes the storage of this glycogen in the liver cells or in the muscle cells. It does so. Okay, but just opposite to that, contrary to that, glucagon performs its function. That is, it breaks down the glycogen. It breaks down the glycogen into glucose. That means your glucagon promotes the increase of sugar level there in the blood by breaking down the glycogen, which is stored there in the liver and muscles. Okay, it promotes the breaking down of this glycogen into glucose, so that way the sugar level increases there in the blood. Okay, so that is the function of glucagon. So that was only is given there in the syllabus about this glucagon. So that's all about the pancreas. As I've told you, it is a dual gland because it contains both duct and ductless glands. So duct gland or duct gland of this pancreas produces pancreatic juice, whereas ductless glands called islets of Langerhans, having 3 different cells, and all these 3 different cells produce 3 different kinds of hormones. So that part is the ductless gland. So that way this pancreas is also called dual gland. Okay, today we'll do only this much, and we'll continue in the next class. Thank you very much.